Hey, welcome everybody. Welcome. Thank you for joining me. Today is Monday, so we're going to be doing another Freight Broker Bootcamp live. Today we're going to do another Q&A. So if you guys have questions about Freight Broker startup or Freight Broker sales or how to scale or carriers or rating or whatever it is, that you can ask me anything during this session. Again, I do these every Monday at noon Eastern. So welcome. Thank you for being here. If you're catching this on replay, hit me up in the comments with hashtag replay. Love to hear from my replay folks. And if you're catching me live, as you're joining this live, hit me up in the comments with the city and state you're logging in from. We're first going to do some shout outs, and then we're going to jump into live Q&A. Okay. Hold your questions. Okay. Do me a favor, because your questions will get lost in the feed. I promise you. I promise you. Okay. So hold your questions until I say go. Hit me up in the comments with the city and state you're logging in from, and we'll let some people get live, and then we'll get this show on the road. Okay. So that's where we're at. Today is February 2nd. Yeah, February 2nd already. 2026. I've finally corrected and stopped writing 2025. Thankfully. So that's where we're at, guys. As you join, hit me up in the comments with the city and state you're logging in from. And again, we'll get this show on the road. And I'm going to use the assistance of my handy dandy reading glasses. And when you put the city and state, put your name next to it, because sometimes your usernames are just impossible to read. Okay. And I know usernames don't always make sense. So hit me up with your name and your city and state in the comments so I know who you are. I got TJ Hines from Tampa, Florida. EOD2537 from Teaneck, New Jersey. We got Corey from Billings. Danny from Fort Worth. Again, include your name and the city and state where you're logging in from so I can give you a shout out. Okay. That'll just make it easier on me, easier on everybody, easier on my glasses, easier on my old ass eyes. Okay. So Jason from Olivia, Minnesota. Welcome. Thank you guys for joining me. Again, I'm in the Buffalo, New York area. I don't know if you know that. I don't know if you've ever been to Buffalo, but I'm a lifelong resident in Western New York. Been here for my entire life, and grew up in the South Towns, kind of more rural, farming area, and then moved up to Buffalo to go to college in 1988, graduated, and then eventually ended up getting married and having a family and settling down here. We're in the Clarence, New York area, which is a little suburbs outside of Buffalo. So tell me where you guys are from, city and state, and I'll try to give a shout out. We got we got Dior Bedian from Paris, France. Okay. We got Danny from Fort Worth. We got Arturo. Welcome. We got, from San Antonio. We got Wabisi Spellman from South Africa, Port Elizabeth. Wow. Craig from Ontario. We got Canada. We got US. We got Africa. Wow. We have Jojo Mighty from Florida. As always, Betty from Betty Jones from BJ Logistics. Thank you, Arturo. Betty from Wilson, North Carolina. Dwayne from Hope Mills, North Carolina. So we have people coming in from everywhere. I love that. This is one of the reasons why I enjoy these lives. Okay. Number one, I get to interact with a lot of my students that have went through my different programs over the years. Secondly, I get to meet a lot of new people from all over the world. And many of them end up becoming my students and or reach out to me later after they've started their own successful freight brokerage and thank me for some of the free trainings that I've done. So I'm excited that you guys are here. We got Dave from Las Vegas. So we're going to get started here in about 30 seconds. Just do me a huge favor. As you notice, there was no credit card to get into this live. There was no payment. There was no gateway. Okay. These are free lives. So if you've ever learned anything from my past lives, or you want me to come back and continue to do these lives weekly, hit the like button no matter where you're at. I stream this on Facebook. I stream it on LinkedIn and YouTube and everywhere. Hit the like button. Let other people know. Most of the people that find out about us find out through one of those platforms or maybe Google. We do very, very little paid advertising. So it usually comes from you promoting or liking something that we've done or that I've done in the past. So I really appreciate the support. Okay. All right, guys. So that's going to get it. That's going to wrap it up for the shout outs. We've got quite a few people live. We're going to have a lot more people that'll catch us on replay. So hit me up in the comments with your questions. Now, those questions, be clear, be specific about your questions. Don't say, how do you get shippers? Because my answer to you is going to be sales. Be specific. Like, hey, how do you do cold calling for shippers? Or, hey, do you recommend cold calling? Or be more specific with your questions on whatever it is, because that allows me to give you a much better answer. All right. Give me details. Be specific about your question. Hit me up in the comments. I'm going to try and do them in order that they come in, but sometimes they come fast and furious. I'm going to try to limit this to about 30 minutes. Usually we have more questions than we have time, but we'll see what happens today. So again, waiting on you guys to hit me up with some questions, and we'll get this show on the road. Who's going to break the ice? Who's going to be the first one? Who's going to ask the first question? We got a bunch of people live. You guys know this is a Q&A. So what's up? Where are we at? Unless the system's lagging, you know what'll end up happening is I'll end up getting 20 questions all at once as the system catches up. But yeah, what questions do you guys have, whether that be about Freight Broker Startup or rating or different AI tools or different freight tech tools or sales or scaling or agent programs or whatever it is, hit me up and let me know. And we'll go from there. Okay, cool. Here's the first question. Thomas Moore asks, do you recommend any paid lead services? I don't recommend any paid lead services. I have seen a bunch of them come and go over the years. And I think that, and if you're talking about paid leads, meaning these are leads of people that are actually asking for an inquiry, they're asking for specific information about freight services. I'm not talking about databases where they have lists of shippers, okay? There are plenty of those out there. If you're referring to paid lead services where they're actually, people are inquiring about leads and you were to buy those leads, I have never seen one that has ever been worth the money. And I've had dozens and dozens and dozens of students give me feedback over the years on those types of services. Sometimes they use Google ads and then they'll try to get queries that way. I don't know how else they collect the leads, but ultimately a lot of those leads turn out to be junk, to be honest with you. So I've never found one that's really had any value at all. If you have a follow-up or I didn't hit the nail on the head, let me know. Okay. Dwayne asks, what's a good rate increase from a lane during inclement weather dollar-wise? $100 plus? All right, interesting question. So I'm making the assumption that you already have a base rate that you've been operating from, okay? So you already know that the cost of a truck is X because you've been running that lane for a period of time. I'm going to make that assumption. And what you're asking is, in the event that they have a weather situation where maybe they've got a heavy rainstorm or they've got a snowstorm or they've got windstorm or they've got some sort of inclement weather, what would be a reasonable increase on rates? Well, here's the thing. It really varies. I probably would not just give you the standard answer of, oh, increase it by $100. And the reason being is because not all weather events are the same. Okay. Some are bigger. I mean, if you got a tornado or a hurricane, right? Or you've got 3 feet of snow that landed in New York, in Western New York, right? And they've got to drive through Western New York to get to where they're going. $100 may or may not do it. Okay. So ultimately, I think what you need to do is you need to look at the base rate that you have, the supply and demand of trucks to loads, and then just know that, there's no one size fits all for increasing that price. You're going to have to take another look at the market. And really, a lot of it's going to be driven by supply and demand. What you'll notice is that when there's a weather situation, for example, when bad weather is coming to Buffalo, okay, or in the Western New York area, when bad weather comes to any market, you're going to notice that the number of available trucks is going to go way down because trucks are going to avoid that area. You can just look at it on the load boards. They don't want to go through that area. They don't want to get stuck there for 2 or 3 days. They don't want to get in an accident. So I don't think I can answer that question for you as far as how much. I think what you need to do is take a closer look at that market. And then from there, you're with your shipper, what you're going to have to do, what you're probably going to want to do is rather than just telling them an X amount, you're going to want to give them a range. Give them a range of, say, rather than saying it's $100 extra, give them a range of maybe $100 to $400 extra, depending upon how severe the weather is. I'll happily try to save you money and do it for about 100 more if there's a problem. But in the event that there's a major issue, it could be as much as 400 or more. And then, so if you give them that range, that's going to build better expectations and it's going to give you a little bit more flexibility. That's my suggestion. TJ Hines asks, what's the best way to find carriers that are specific to your niche? Lumber, building materials. Well, it looks to me, sounds to me like you're predominantly dealing in flatbeds. If you're dealing with lumber and building materials, that's a lot of what you'll use. Some building materials can go in vans, but we're going to assume it's flatbeds. I'm going to tell you, and I think I answered this question for you in our paid members group, okay? And that is this. The best place to find capacity that you don't necessarily haven't already tapped into, new capacity, okay? Particularly for newer brokers, is a load board, whether that be DAT, whether that be truck stop. Here's why. It's very simple. You are going to want, rather than just going out and trying to connect and network and have conversations with every company that does flatbeds, because there are tens of thousands of those, probably 100,000 or more flatbed carriers out there. Rather than just trying to connect with anybody that does flatbeds, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to focus in on your specific, not just your specific niche, but specific geography that your customers and shippers have or need. For example, if I'm in Buffalo, New York, and I've got a shipper in Buffalo that does lumber or does building supplies, based upon the lanes that they run or the prominent lanes that come out of Buffalo, like, Buffalo, a lot of regional freight comes out of Buffalo. So Buffalo to Columbus, Buffalo to Pittsburgh, Buffalo to Philly, Buffalo to Boston, Buffalo to Syracuse, Buffalo to, and you could extend it out a little bit further. What you're going to want to do is you're going to want to find carriers that post their trucks in those lanes. One of the best ways to do that is to, search for trucks in those lanes based on the equipment. And secondly, is to look at lane history, which is a feature in most good load boards, where you can go back and look at what carriers have posted their trucks over the last 30, 60, 90 days based upon equipment and that specific lane. Though those carriers are the carriers that you want to start having conversations with because they have need. They wouldn't post their truck if they didn't need freight in those lanes based on that equipment. Okay? That is the best place to recruit carriers. Now, beyond that, I'm sure there are maybe some other tools out there that you might be able to tap into. But I think if you're just trying to take a straight line and find carriers that have capacity that you can leverage to serve your customers, right? And have demand where you may be able to make a match, right? And you might be able to work together because there's mutual need and demand. I think the load boards and those two strategies that I gave you are probably the best place to start. Hope that helps. What do you look for when choosing new freight agents, specifically those starting from abroad? Well, I'm going to be honest with you. We had very few agents abroad when I had my brokerage. So I have not personally focused on internet, agents from India or agents from the Ukraine, from Eastern Europe or agents from Central America. I know that that's become very, very popular, right? but I don't think I would necessarily change how I vetted them versus someone in the US, other than trying to obviously make sure they're in a market that has stable infrastructure, like stable internet, right? And the ability to, you don't want their internet going down every day where they can't serve their customers, right? You don't want their phone systems going down every day so they can't serve their customers or carriers. So, I would, the only additional, because in the US infrastructure is strong, obviously it's very reliable, but when you get international and you get to the Philippines or you get to Pakistan or you get to different places, sometimes the infrastructure is a little suspect. So other than the normal things that you would vet them, a US based agent, you might want to look at you make sure they have strong infrastructure and that they're in a position where they're not going to have a lot of tech issues. I know it's going to be hard to run a background check on them because it's international. So you're going to want to vet them a little bit harder, a little bit longer, because what you want to make sure, and that's probably going to take, the only way you're probably going to be able to vet that truly is maybe based upon some of their past experience and some references. I do believe that you're going to have to slow things down and be much more careful and cautious when vetting and when hiring agents internationally. So I don't think I have much more to share with you on that because I don't have a lot of personal experience doing it. And so I don't want to pontificate. I'm just trying to give you where my little bit of a brain dump on where my mind goes in the event that I were to sit here today and have to recruit an international agent. So hope that helps. If not, give me a follow-up. Dave, struggling with niching down. Have an idea. Is it okay to look nationwide or should I stick in my specific zone, the Southwest? Okay, Dave. So I'm going to answer that question, but I'm going to kind of give a little bit of a longer answer. Okay. I'm happy that you're niching down, but I am a big fan and a big believer in combining two niches, right? And two ways to niche things down. One is either a specific industry or a type of equipment. Usually it's equipment driven. Like, we heard TJ ask about flatbeds for the lumber industry, right? So if it's flatbeds, or if it's flatbeds, I wouldn't just say I do flatbeds everywhere, especially as a startup. Okay. As a startup, what I suggest is you say, I'm going to do flatbeds, but I'm going to do a specific region or a specific corridor, or a specific lane. Let me give you a personal real life example. When I started my freight brokerage back in 2003, we focused on van freight that originated in the Northeast, New York, PA, New Jersey, all the way up through Maine, that Northeast New England area. And if it went west or south on a van, that was our niche. Okay. So we weren't picking up freight from Florida that was going to the Northeast, or from Texas that was going to the Northeast, or was from California that was going to the Northeast. Why? Because that wasn't our niche. Our niche was Northeast outbound van freight. Now, we dug into, there was a variety of reasons why we chose that, but ultimately we chose that niche. We dove in, we became a specialist, we became an expert in capacity and rates and service in that niche. And then eventually what happened is we expanded into flatbed out of the Northeast, and then we expanded into refrigerated out of the Northeast. And then eventually after that, one of our Northeast customers had freight in. We were very close. We were doing a lot of business with them. We had a great relationship. They had freight out of Arkansas. And what we did was, at that point, they asked us for help out of Arkansas, right? And so we were like, well, it's really not in our niche, but we'll do you a favor. We'll take a look. And we started diving into that niche. We started taking a look at what that market had to offer. And ultimately, we ended up expanding into that area geographically. And then eventually that's how we strategically expanded into other areas. And then eventually, we launched the agent program in 2006. And then we started recruiting agents that specialized in specific niches in specific geographic areas. And that's how we expanded and eventually grew the company to over 80 million a year in sales. So I hope that helps. Long answer short. If you got a follow-up, let me know. Thomas, what about databases like Apollo or Zoom? Yes. Okay, great. Those are not paid lead sources. Those are databases. So but there's a little bit of a lingo there's thing. So yeah. So I do believe that tools like Apollo and Zoom and some other ones are very powerful. They've got very good updated data that will allow you to build a list of potential shippers. Now, those aren't really leads, because leads to me is like someone that's looking for information, right? A lead. You have a database, you have a list, right? So you could build a list of potential prospects. So for example, if you use, I have a relationship with Apollo. If you go to freightbrokerbootcamp.com/free leads, we're a partner with Apollo. You can sign up there for free with no credit card and just your email address. And if you sign up for Apollo as a free account, you can go in and you can search by geography, you can search by industry, you can search by company size, you can search by job titles, and you can build an entire list of potential prospects, okay? We'll call them leads, okay? That you will be able to then reach out to through email, through phone, through whatever. Now, that's a free version. Now, they also have enhanced paid version of those leads where you can get additional data. But if all you're looking for is the company name, the specific industry, the geography, the size of the company, you can get the company website, you can get the company phone number, you can get a lot of data absolutely free. Now, if you want to get the email address or the cell phone number for the logistics manager, that may cost you. But again, that's optional. So you don't need to do that. And I teach how to do that. I teach how to get those leads without paying for them, but you can also get enhanced data. So they're just doing a classic marketing campaign, which is, hey, we offer you a freemium version, and then you can upgrade to a paid version if you find the need. So if you go to freightbrokerbootcamp.com/free leads, you'll be able to sign up for free with no credit card and with just an email address, and you'll be able to start playing around with it. It's a great tool. The leads are, the data is incredibly, accurate in most cases. They spend, I can't imagine the amount of money they spend monthly and annually to try to keep that data clean, because you got to understand, if I were to give you a list of leads today, tomorrow that list is somewhat obsolete. There's somebody on that list that either died, left their job, quit, got fired, changed their email, or the phone number changed, right? So every day that goes by with a static lead list, it degrades. So companies like Zoom and companies like Apollo, that's their business. They are constantly updating the data. And so I'm a big fan of Apollo. And you guys, if you want to check it out for free, go to freightbrokerbootcamp.com/free leads. Good question. Thank you for clarifying, because there are other services out there that are like pay per lead type services where they come in and they'll advertise online and they'll say, hey, this person is looking for information about X, but I've never found those to be valuable or credible or even good. Let me see. Got to scroll down. I lost my place. Hold on. Okay. Arturo's asking, I am from autonomous field, and I'm curious to ask, how has AI realistically impacted freight brokerages so far? Where has it truly added value, and where has it fallen short? Again, I'm new here. I just love interacting on lives. Well, I think what's happening is AI is starting to play a role in brokerage. It's not replacing brokers. It's supplementing and making brokers' jobs easier and more profitable. For example, a lot of the load boards are integrating AI into their systems for pricing and data, right? A lot of the transportation management software, the TMSs, are integrating AI into their processes for vetting and for check calls and for carrier, matching carriers with loads. So a lot of the primary tools that brokers use are integrating AI into them as a way to make a better offering and make a broker or a carrier's job easier. So that's the primary way is that they're integrating with the existing tech stack, right? The different freight tech companies that are popular, whether that be someone like any of the number of different TMS software out there. Beyond that, what you're seeing is, you're seeing some other companies pop up that are doing more AI automation when it comes to, trying to do outbound sales calls, which I'm not a fan of at all, right? I'm not a fan at all. I just think that type of approach is just lazy and is going to be detected, and you are going to do way more damage than you are good by doing AI sales calls, right? But you've also got where when they call into a brokerage and a carrier calls into a brokerage and the AI is now negotiating that load. So a carrier calls in, I'm calling on load 1, 2, 3. The AI confirms it and negotiates the load. And then from there, processes and confirms it and does the whole process. So there's a lot of ways that AI is going to help supplement and help brokers, but it's not going to replace brokers. Okay. I did an entire video on it. I did an entire video breakdown of how and why and where. So you can check that out on my YouTube channel, but I hope that helps, Arturo. Okay, Avery, with a recent weather we've had, how do you handle claims and disputes and drivers not willing to handle drive in the snow and ice? Sorry if this was already asked. I joined late. Okay. With recent weather we've had, how do you handle claims and disputes and drivers not willing to drive? Okay, well, listen, if it's unsafe for a driver to drive, then it's not your job to sell them into or force them to drive. Okay, the driver knows best whether the weather is safe to drive in or not. Okay, they know way better than you do. They're sitting in the seat. They've been there. They've done that. So number one, if a driver says that the weather they're not willing to drive in the weather, then you just have to take that at face value, and you've either got to find another driver or you got to figure something out. Okay. Secondly, as far as claims go, I'm not sure there's going to be a ton of additional claims unless trucks are getting into wrecks. Maybe if a truck goes off the road and it does some sort of damage, you treat those claims, you treat everything as if it's normal. If there's a weather event where there's a heightened amount of service issues, then you just handle those one at a time. I don't think there's any secret or any special script or strategy where you're going to be able to do that. Take them one at a time and approach them. Be very transparent with your shippers, be very transparent with your carriers, and try to focus on being solution driven than pointing fingers. So I hope that helps. If I'm based in Paris, but work full US hours, is it still possible to build a book of business remotely? 100%. No question. Let me give you an example. I had a student many years ago, okay, who was in India, had no experience in trucking or transportation. In India, English was his second language, okay? And he went and ended up building a multi-7-figure freight brokerage. I'm pretty sure at one point he was doing, I think, 2 or 3 million a month in sales as a broker. He had his own brokerage. He had a partner in the US and he was the partner in India. And they had a partnership, and he built that entire business remote from India. Now, I've had a lot of students that have become agents, from other countries and have built a successful book of business, whether that be Colombia, whether that be, Eastern Europe, whether that be UK, whether that be, a lot of Central American companies, South America, Canada. So yeah, you absolutely can build a book of business from outside the United States. The key is what you just said. If you are already working normal business hours, US business hours from wherever you're located, and you have the training and the skills and the desire, you can absolutely build your business remote, 100%. Believe it or not, some of the top agents in some of the biggest companies out there that do an agent model are located remote in a foreign country. Okay. So I worked with one of the largest agents. One of my clients was one of the largest freight agents for one of the largest, I'm not going to say the name, one of the largest agent-based brokerages out there. And they were remote. I'll tell you, they were in Eastern Europe, and they did over $100 million a year as an agent. Okay. So just giving you an idea. So very doable. You've been teasing your sales training program for a while. Any updates on when? Yes. Dave, thank you for asking. Dave's referring to my Freight Broker Sales Accelerator program. So my Freight Broker Sales Accelerator program is a sales coaching and mentoring program. I'm hoping to launch it very soon. I'm doing a lot of work on the back end, and I've got some projects I've got to finish up. But that is an 8-week live coaching and mentoring program where I take that piece of my brain and transplant it into your head. And I teach you my best freight broker sales strategies, tactics, tools. That is not open for enrollment right now. It will be opening soon. I said a couple weeks ago, 2 to 4 weeks. I'm going to stick with it because some of my projects have been delayed. But if you want to get on the wait list and get notified when that program opens up, go to freightbrokerbootcamp.com/waitlist. You can get on the wait list and you will be the first to get notified when that program opens up. Now, the reason why the wait list is so important is because I don't put 100 people in that program. I typically have less than 20 people in that program. So you do the math. I've got over 1,000 people on the wait list. Okay. I have 20 spots. So when I send it out, the spots fill up very quickly. Now, one thing you have to understand, I hand select every person that comes into the program. I actually interview them. We go through that process to make sure that they're a good fit for the program. So ultimately, those spots do fill up very, very quickly, but they're kind of a first come, first serve and setting up the interviews, and then I hand select them. So don't let the fact that there's 1,000 people on the wait list deter you. You will get the information and you will have an equal opportunity to be a part of this program, but you got to be on the wait list. Okay. So I hope that helps. Thanks for asking, Dave. I appreciate the reminder to let everybody know, because what happens is I'll end up launching this, and then 2 weeks later, people are going to come in and be like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I missed it. Can I join now?" And the answer is always no. Okay. So okay, question. Hey, Dennis, is LinkedIn Premium a good tool for getting shippers? Okay, so I think LinkedIn Premium is a good tool. LinkedIn Sales Navigator is the most premium sales related tool. I think it's a good tool, but I think it's a good tool and I think it's valuable. And if you have the resources, feel free to pay for it, but only pay for it if you're really going to use it. It gives you a lot of different tools beyond the free account. But here's what I'm going to tell you. The free account is more than enough to start developing relationships and start getting shippers using the free LinkedIn account. Okay. I can tell you that I had a premium when I first started on LinkedIn. This is back in 2007. There wasn't a premium account. I didn't think they had a premium account back then. I think they offered it a little bit later, but the point was, I built most of my brokerage in just using a free account. And then what happened is they started scaling back some of the tools and they started spinning it into like paid accounts. And it got a little bit harder, but the free account is very, very powerful. I do believe that if you have the resources, the paid account is more than going to pay for itself. I don't know what the cost is. I think it might be, there's different levels, but I think there's somewhere between like 40 and 80 bucks a month. There's a couple different levels you can buy. But yeah, think about it. If all you did was get one shipper, it's more than going to pay for itself, right? One small shipper doing one load a week at 200 bucks profit, you're talking $10,000 a year in profit, with what? An investment of 80 bucks a month, an investment of $1,000 for the year. So the return on investment is very, very good, but only if you are going to use it. Don't subscribe to it and then not use it and keep paying, because that's what people do a lot of times. All right. They want to buy these different tools, but then they don't leverage them. They don't truly use them. They don't maximize them so they can get a good ROI. Hope that helps. Okay. We're running close on time here. I'm going to try to ask one or two more questions, and then we're going to go. I typed up Freight Broker Bootcamp and got an error message, something funny. Sorry. I think my mic went out for a second there. If you're having a problem, just go to freightbrokerbootcamp.com. That is where you will learn all the details of my Freight Broker Bootcamp startup program. Okay. If you're looking for the I don't know why this mic keeps on disconnecting. Sorry about that. If you're looking to build credit, I had a question from somebody. How do you build credit as a broker? If you're looking to build credit as a broker, go to freightbrokerbootcamp.com/broker credit. This is a free freight broker credit building course. A partner of ours, Operify, that does financing or does factoring, they put together this entire freight broker credit course. I didn't put it together. They put it together. They normally sell it for $250. If you're a part of my community, you can get it for free. If you go to that link, you'll get it for free. Now, I went through that credit course. It's really, really good. And it teaches a lot of things that other people don't fully understand and don't really make sense. Teaches you how quick pays can actually hurt your credit. A lot of people think quick pays is going to build your credit, but he goes into a detailed breakdown of how it can actually hurt your credit. So I would recommend anybody who's looking to build their credit or continue building their credit, check it out at freightbrokerbootcamp.com/broker credit. Now, if you're looking for factoring, okay, if you're a startup and looking for factoring, you can go to freightbrokerbootcamp.com/cash flow. That is where you can submit an inquiry and someone from Operify will reach out to you about factoring as a startup, right? Factoring is where you're going to be using other people's money to finance your operations. So, you can get paid in like 24 to 48 hours on the loads that you move as a way to pay those carriers quickly and offset some of your operational cost. Okay. So rather than waiting for 30, 45, 60 days for the shipper to pay you so you can pay the carrier, you can use Operify or other factoring companies as a way to, as a creative financing strategy to get that cash flow quicker. And of course, there's a discount to it, but getting that cash flow, building that credit, most freight brokers, I would say, do end up using factoring unless they have some of their own financial resources or really good credit or whatever the case may be. So hope that helps. I know I had no sound. The sound is back now, so I don't know what happened. Apparently I must have banged the mic or something. But all right, guys, listen, that's going to wrap it up for today. But listen, if you learned anything during this live, do me a huge favor. Hit the like button. If you're on Facebook, share the stream. If you're on LinkedIn, repost this. Do me a favor and let other people know. This is how most people find out about Freight Broker Bootcamp, and I truly appreciate your help. Again, this is absolutely free. I don't charge for this. I do these weekly. In most cases, I do them weekly, Mondays at noon. I appreciate you guys being here. Listen, if you want me to come back every week and do these free trainings and sit on this hot seat and answer your questions every week about how to start and grow a successful freight brokerage, show me that you appreciate it. Hit the like button, repost, share. Let me know. I do know who does all that. I know who actually reposts it. I know who shares it. I know who likes it. And when I see those names pop up in the Q&As in the future, I always make sure I focus on them as an effort to try to repay the favor. Appreciate you guys being here. Hope you guys enjoyed this. Hope you learned something. If you did, let me know in the comments. Have an awesome day. Have an awesome week. And I'll see you next Monday on the next Freight Broker Bootcamp Live.